Welcome to the LP Podcast in the USA Prime East Texas studio. Don't forget, like and subscribe.
Today on the LP Podcast, we have a very special guest joining us, Congressman Lance Gooden, who represents our very own area here in East Texas. Congressman Gooden has been working hard in Washington, D.C. on issues that affect us right here at home. Things like supporting small businesses, keeping energy costs down, and making sure our communities are safe. He's here to talk about what he's doing to help our schools, support local jobs, and keep East Texas a great place to live. Stick around because this is going to be a conversation you won't want to miss.
Welcome back to the LP Podcast. We're in the USA Prime East Texas studio today, and we're here with Representative Lance Gooden. So I'll go around and introduce our host. I'm Aaron Cook. Over here is Colton, Eason. Down there is Gavin, and then, of course, Lance.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here today, Lance. So you have a good drive over here?
Yeah, it was great. No traffic. I guess it's about 10 a.m. right now as we record. It's great to be here, and I see a lot of familiar faces and new faces. It's a pleasure. Thanks.
Yeah, we're really glad to have you. We're glad you were able to come in. So we're just going to kind of get started talking about you. I mean, this is a podcast about you, so we're just going to start going into it. So were you always in East Texas, or did you come from somewhere else?
Yeah, well, so I grew up in Terrell. You know where Terrell is?
Yes.
It's about an hour from here. Went to Terrell High School. My father was a football coach. My mom was a teacher, and I had a pretty normal childhood. Great experience growing up in a small town. In Terrell, we don't necessarily call ourselves East Texas, but I feel like it kind of starts. It's kind of on the line. So we're part.
Yeah, right there on that border.
Yeah, we're not a Dallas suburb, but we're not East Texas, so we're kind of in between.
Yeah.
But we're. It's very similar to this area, and I went to school at UT in Austin, and I moved back home, got into insurance for a while, and then in 2009, it was the year after Obama was elected president, I had this wild idea to run for office. I was talking with a gentleman who was about to run for county judge in Kaufman County, and we talked about the state representative seat, and I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to do good for my community, and I didn't know how to do that. And he said, well, I guess you could run for state rep, but it'd be tough. The person that's there has been there for 12 years. They've got a lot of money and name ID. And I was what's the word? I was probably delusionally optimistic, and I jumped in this race. I was 27, I think, at the time. Wow. I'm 42 now. And I ran against this incumbent that had been there forever. And then on election night, after working very hard for about a year, I won with 1 percentage point of the vote.
Wow.
And it was incredible. And then I went to Austin, and I was in the legislature there, served a couple terms, lost, came back, served a term. And then our congressman at the time, Jeb Hinserling, announced that he was retiring. So it was an open seat, and seats in Congress are difficult because they rarely come open, and when they do, a lot of people want to run. And there were 8 of us that ran for the seat, and when all the votes were counted and we had a runoff a few months later, I won the race. And so I've been in Congress and serving our county here in Henderson County and several other counties that make up the district for the last 3 terms.
Wow.
And I can't believe that, actually. It's been 6 years that I've been in Congress, and so Election Day is less than 2 weeks away. I'll be going for my 4th term, and hopefully I'll be there come January with quite a few changes. I'm obviously Republican, and so I'm hopeful and confident that Donald Trump wins and that we have majorities and we get a lot of stuff done come January.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, you didn't start off in the beginning with politics.
Right.
Would you say politics has affected your life in a significant way?
Well, yeah, it's taken up the good chunk of my adult life. Now that I'm 42, I met my wife in Austin. I would have never met her. We have 2 children. I don't know how that would have worked out. I wouldn't have ever met her had I not been in the State House. I've had experiences. I've made friends that I wouldn't have met. I probably would have never known any of you in this room had I not gotten into politics. And so it's definitely changed my life, but I've made a point to make sure it's not all that I am. If politics ended for me tomorrow, then I would have a happy life. And it wouldn't be the end of the world. It would be just the beginning of a new chapter. But unfortunately, because of the system we live in and the way it goes, when you're in elected office or you're campaigning, you wake up every day and it's all you think about. The average American, they think about this election that's going on right now, but they don't wake up in the morning and think, this is what I've got to do to make sure this election goes my way. And I've been waking up and thinking that every day for the last 14 years because I'm always thinking we've got an election around the corner. And in the seat that I have, we're on the ballot every 2 years. So the only folks that have to campaign all the time are me and our current state rep, which is Keith Bell. The two of us are constantly campaigning because the state house and the U.S. House, those two seats are the only seats in all the country that are up every 2 years. Everything else is 3 or 4 or 6 years. But that's kind of how the system was made up. When the founders wrote the Constitution, they wanted the House, the state, and federal, the House to be at the whims of the people, and the people are very whimsical at times. And so I serve at the pleasure of the people, and I have to answer to the people every 2 years. And so it does take up a big chunk of my life, but it's all voluntary. No one's making me do it. And if I decide not to do it, there's plenty of others that would be great at the job. So it's working for now. I'm excited about this next election. If we're successful, it will be the first time since I've been in Congress that the Republicans have the House and the Senate and the presidency.
Wow.
So it will be a different experience that I've never had before. I've been in the minority where we had control of nothing. I've been through COVID and quite a few things. I was there for the final 2 years of Trump's presidency, but the House was not controlled by Republicans at the time. So we're hopeful that we win it all, and there's a new experience around the corner that's very positive.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely assume you have a passion for it because, I mean, you've been doing this for, 14 years, 15 years?
I've been in politics, yes. I've only been in Congress for 6, but yes.
Yeah, going through all the easy and the hard times because you got to assume that there's both for sure.
There are. I mean, as I said earlier, I lost a race in 2014, I think it was, and that was difficult, but in hindsight, it was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. I learned from that. I feel I know how to sense when things are not going well. I also know how to sense when things are going well. And I have a, I won't say it's a sixth sense, but it's a sense that I didn't have until I lost the race. And now I know I need to go see these folks. I need to spend some more time with someone. We got a problem here. I know how to feel it. And I used to not be able to feel it.
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you today by Young's Hair and Lashes by Leslie Young at Loft 175 in Athens. If you want to get a normal man's haircut like me and not like the hideous woman that's about to come on after me, go to get your haircut by Leslie Young at Loft 175.
This podcast today is brought to you by Young's Hair and Lashes by Leslie Young at Loft 175. If you want hair like mine, I mean, it's fantastic, as you can see. You need to go get your hair cut by Miss Leslie. She does a fantastic job. If you need a haircut, you can call an appointment at this number right here. I hope they did a thing. I don't know if they did that thing. Get your haircut.
This podcast is brought to you by Against the Grain. Looking to build the home of your dreams or upgrade your space with stunning custom cabinetry? Blaine and Kimberly Newman at Against the Grain Custom Homes and Cabinetry in Murchison, Texas are here to make it happen. With Blaine's 20 years of experience in the industry, they bring unmatched craftsmanship and attention to detail to every project. From the design to the final touches, each project is crafted with you in mind, whether it's a new building or a remodel. Let Against the Grain bring your visit to life. Call 903-574-2471 today and start your journey to a beautifully custom crafted home.
Aaron,
Yes, Colton.
are you as bored as I am?
Yes, and I hope Against the Grain in Murchison isn't exactly just bored to tears. Also, it's your vision, not visit. They're not going to bring your visit to life.
You gotta put some energy into it, like this. Against the Grain in Murchison, Texas provides custom cabinets and custom homes.
And they do a good job with it, too.
Dang right they do.
Go check them out. Against the Grain, they do custom cabinets, and they even build homes in Murchison, Texas.
And they're not boring.
And they're not boring like Bentley is.
So we're kind of gonna go back to your childhood. So do you have any siblings? First of all,
I grew up an only child.
Really?
And it was just me. And I cut you off. Was that your only question?
yeah, that was it. That was it right now.
Were you a spoiled only child?
No.
Oh, I am.
I was loved.
I am.
Yeah. Only children spend a lot of time with adults, and because they don't have brothers and sisters that they grow up with. So I spent a lot of time having adult conversations with adults, and that's just how it was.
Would you say that shaped who you are today is growing up with adults and having those hard conversations with adults?
I mean, they weren't hard, but it's just it's all I know. So
Right.
when people say, what was it like growing up as an only child, I say, what was it like growing up with siblings? It's all you know. It's all I knew. It is what it is. It's my experience. And it was good, but I was always interested in politics. I didn't plan to be in politics. It just kind of happened. But I thought that I needed to focus on something that wasn't political after college, and so I got into insurance and found my way, and then realized I could still make a difference even if I wasn't in politics. But this opportunity came up, and I pursued it and took a chance, and I was able to take a chance at that time, and it worked out.
Yeah, because you never know till you try.
There's a lot of people don't get into politics because there's a lot at stake. You have to take a big risk. There's always the chance of failure, and it's tough. People are not always nice to you, and some people don't like that. Some people don't have a problem with that, and it's just how it is. I've accepted that that's how the system is. If I want to be a part of it, great. If not, there's other things to do that make a difference as well.
Yeah, definitely must be daunting to get into politics because, I mean, a lot of people that are there have been there for a while.
Yeah, it's a strange feeling, especially once you get elected, to know that there are thousands of people working to defeat you year-round. I have an opponent right now that's working to defeat me, and I'm working to defeat her. And it's a strange thing because in a normal job, you go to work and you get your review, and you're doing a good job or you're not. In my job, you could be doing a good job and you still get thrown out.
Yeah.
So there's more of a responsibility on my part to make sure that those doing my job review are fully aware of the picture. And so that's where the campaign comes in. And I have to go and spread the word and account for whatever it is I've been up to.
Yeah. So you were saying, when you got into politics, you moved to Austin and you met your wife.
Mm-hmm.
So how long ago was that? So y'all have been married. So how long have y'all been married?
We've been married 8 years this month, actually. Yeah, we met in Austin. She was working down there. She's originally from Shreveport, and so she never thought she would move. She considered Shreveport to be a small town, and then she never thought she'd live in Terrell. And we are only 2.5 hours from her parents in Shreveport, which is convenient.
Yeah.
And we met in Austin. It was great.
So when y'all are in session at Washington, do you tend to lean more towards one person or not lean towards another? Do you have a certain group that you would lean more towards?
Like gravitate to, like a certain group of people.
Yes and no. The only child in me often comes out, and I'm content to be alone sometimes and do my own thing. There are folks that are always together. Like when we go in the House chamber, there are groups of people that always sit together. And there's kind of 3 groups of House members. There's the roamers that are always moving around. There's people that always have their same seat. And then there are people that you never know where they are. Maybe they sit here one day and they sit here the next. And I have a group of folks that I'm friends with. If we've got an hour of votes or debate, I'll usually spend half the time with them. And the other half of the time, I'm a roamer. And it's interesting. I've got groups of people that I lean on or try to help, but I also trust my instincts, and not everyone has great instincts. So sometimes people are unsure of themselves. Sometimes folks they don't always make the right moves because they are overly conservative or they're afraid of the outcome. I typically I'll evaluate it and make a call and commit and go down that path.
So you think you could give us a little bit of insight on like how that process works when y'all go into session?
Yeah, so I was in the State House for 3 terms. The State House only meets in Austin for about 6 months every 2 years, and then they're not in session. The U.S. House and Senate, we're there all the time, with a few exceptions. The month of October, right now, in election years, we're never there. Everyone's back home in their districts campaigning. Summertime, we usually have a month or so off, but for the most part, I'm in Washington 3 weeks a month for 3 nights per week. So on average, I spend 9 to 10 nights a month in Washington. I make 3 trips a month each week. I'll usually leave on a Monday at around noon, get there on the first night of the week if I leave at noon, I'll usually land at 4 p.m., 3:30, and then I go to my office, then we have votes that night, and then we have 2 or 3 days of hearings, and then by Thursday night I'm back home. And we'll repeat that, and then we'll have usually a 10-day window where we're off. Now, the American people think we're not there enough, we don't do enough, but part of our job is also being among the people and talking to folks about what it is that's important, helping them with issues. And so there's that aspect of the job that's important where we're in our communities and we're talking to folks and making sure that we're all on the same page. But the day-to-day in Washington, I've usually got hearings, I have votes, I have meetings with constituents, or there's a problem back home that we're trying to fix. It just kind of depends. But we're working on various issues. I've done a lot with immigration issues. We're trying to secure the border. It's tough to do when the Democrats are in charge and they open the border. But we've got hearings where we're holding them to account, and it's usually busy when I'm there. I typically my calendar's full.
Yeah, it sounds kind of exhausting. So after you're done with when y'all are in session, after y'all are done with that for like a day or something, is there like a favorite like coffee spot or just a favorite spot that you go to?
Usually I like to just go to sleep early if I can, but that's hard to do. So sometimes we'll have votes. Because people don't want to spend 5 full days there, we have long days, so we can cut out on a Thursday night. And so we're usually working till 6 or 7 or more.
Oh, wow.
We'll sometimes break for dinner, and then we'll come back and have debate or votes that last until 10 or 11 p.m. But I spend a lot of time running around the Capitol between meetings. There's a couple of coffee places we hang out on occasion. But the problem with D.C. is if you're in a coffee spot and you're a member of Congress, somebody may want to harass you, come up, and it's difficult to do work sometimes if you're making phone calls. So a lot of times I'll just go home or sit in my office and get things done. But the part about the going back and forth, I mean, that's the job, but it is difficult to be away from your family, especially if you have young children. If I have a free 20 minutes, then I'm sometimes FaceTiming the kids, talking to them, and then I'm back at it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like politics isn't your typical 9-to-5 job. It's kind of all day, every day.
All day, every day. Yes. On the phone all the time.
You put all your energy into it.
Mm-hmm. You're leaving dinners when the phone rings and it's someone that you can't really ignore. If the Speaker of the House calls me, I got to take the call. If Donald Trump calls me and wants to talk about something and he stays up late, a lot later than I do, so he'll call and we'll talk about things. I remember a couple weeks ago, I think it was 11-something at night, my phone was lighting up, and my wife said, "Who is that?" And I looked and I said, "Oh, it's Donald Trump." And so I had to look at it and respond because he's a late night guy. He never sleeps. But sometimes things also just happen. I've turned off my phone before and said, "These problems will be here in the morning," and then I wake up and there's some attack in Israel, or there's some crisis, or something's happened. And so it's very difficult to disconnect and take off. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to take a trip far away and too many time zones away because you never relax. But that's part of it. And my constituents also, they expect me to be available and on the ball at all times, mainly because I promised them I would be. And so they expect that. If I'm on a trip somewhere, maybe I'm on a family vacation, and a tornado hits Henderson County, then suddenly I'm expected to make sure FEMA and everyone are doing what they're supposed to do, whether I'm on a vacation or my family member has passed and I'm at a funeral, it doesn't matter. Life still happens. And in this job, you're expected to be available and constantly working. And I'm happy to, because that's what I signed up for. But there's always something. In politics, I mean, you turn on the TV, there's something every day. But there's the politics, and then there's the official work, and they often collide, and it's nonstop.
So, kind of going back to when you first started with politics, who helped you, like, basically been a mentor to you?
Well, when I first got into politics, I didn't really have a mentor. My father was very sick at the time, and my mom was with him, and so I couldn't lean on my parents and didn't need to. And then I was also going against some establishment folks that had been in office and run politics in the area, and so I didn't have a lot of support from the experts, because the experts were who I was going against. There was a gentleman running for office he was running for a different seat, and he and I wouldn't say we were each other's mentors, but we were our kind of support system. And we'd often say, are we crazy? Do we have a chance? Are we going to win? Are they just going to make fools of us? And we kept telling each other, no, we're working hard. We're having good interactions with people. People want change. People are going to be behind us. We're going to do this. And then we won. And I did have a mentor when I got to the State House. There was a gentleman, his name was Jim Pitts. He actually passed away 3 months ago, and he was the chair of the House Appropriations Committee, and he kind of took me under his wing, and he showed me the ropes. He put me on the Appropriations Committee my first term in Austin, and he was good to me. He told me kind of who the problem people were, what the problem issues were, and you hear all these things, but you really don't know how things are until you've been there. And I mean, if you look at Donald Trump, who was his mentor when he got to Washington, he didn't have one. He just had to figure it out. And if he goes back in January, he'll do so many things differently because of the experiences he had. So in politics, it's hard to have a mentor because it's kind of every man for himself.
Against you, yeah.
Yeah, and so it can be often a lonely place. But where I get my energy is when I come home and I'm with my family. I go into the community and I see folks. I met you all today for the first time. You all seem pretty nice. You haven't said anything too nasty to me yet. But I meet folks in the community, and I'm encouraged that I'm not totally crazy. You know, when I go up to D.C. and I'm sitting at a dinner and Nancy Pelosi's across the table from me and she's saying things that I just think are out of left field, it's nice to come back home and be reminded that the rest of the country really doesn't all believe that way. And so I try to get home as much as I can. I am one of those. There are some members that spend their weekends in Washington. I haven't spent a single weekend in D.C. since I've been in Congress. As soon as I can, I'm running to the airport to come back to Texas. And I think that's important. Some members, they don't come home enough and they get detached, and that's how they kind of forget their way, forget what they came to Washington to do. And then I also think that's how people get defeated. And so I feel like if I'm in touch with the community and talking to people, then I stay grounded, and I'm also more likely to be sent back.
That's got to be kind of a surreal experience for you, because, I mean, going from just working in insurance to having dinner with Nancy Pelosi or getting just called by Donald Trump, is that just kind of surreal?
It was at first, and now it's become my normal.
Yeah.
So it is strange. Every once in a while, I'll pinch myself. I remember I was sitting on Trump Force One, not Air Force One, with my wife, and we were telling jokes with Donald Trump and laughing, and it was late at night, and he was playing some Rolling Stones song. He has this iPad that he sits. If you look at pictures, sometimes you'll see he's got an iPad, and that's his jukebox. He plays music, and it blares across the airplane. And we were just having fun, laughing, and I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. But he's also, he's just a normal guy, and I'm just a normal guy. We're all pretty normal. At least we all were at one point. I still like to think I am. But the American people are, for the most part, normal folks, and they just want to live their lives. They want to listen to their music, relax, and be in peace and security. And so, it is surreal at times, but it's also nice. It's more impressive to me to come home and and be with the real people.
Divine Vineyard and Venue in St. George, Kansas is a venue for events such as weddings, corporate parties, meetings, birthdays, anniversaries, etc. The vineyard has 5 varieties of red and white grapes which we have begun picking and are in the process of making wine. There are 3 acres of vines with 1,800 plants. Our vines are now 4.5 years old. Our venue opened a little over a year ago, so we are pretty new. We want to make good wine and have fun parties at the venue with some of our wine. Our website is divinevineyardvenue.com. See our photos and information online and give us a call.
So, kind of piggybacking off that a little bit. So, the American political system. So you've been in it for a while. You've been in it for a while. You know your ways around it. So, you think it's working as it should, or you think it's broken?
I mean, Washington is broken, but the system is what the system is. It's easy to say Washington is broken when the people in the system aren't the people that we want there.
Yeah.
I decided a while back that I wasn't going to be upset with the people I served with that believed differently than me because they were sent by voters. If there's anyone I should be upset with, it should be the people that sent them there. So when someone's with me that I disagree with, or that's nasty, or just pushing some outlandish policy, I don't necessarily think badly about them. I know that that's what their district sent, and it is what it is. My district sent me, so when someone's critical of me, just last night someone questioned a position I took. They said, I disagree with your position. And I said, well, I don't always love every position, but my position is in line with my constituents, and as long as they feel this way, this is how I feel. And typically, you can't go wrong when you execute on the wishes of the people that voted for you. That's kind of how the system works. And so, no, I don't know that the system is broken, but there are aspects of government that are broken. I think the deep state is very real. There are people that have been running things forever that shouldn't still be in Washington. The executive branch doesn't necessarily listen to the legislative branch like they should. We've had hearings where the executive branch lies to us. We try to hold them accountable, and it's very difficult. So I'm hopeful that we take back the executive branch in the next election, and we fix some of what the American people think is broken.
So in a lot of stuff like that, like you'll see it in like the police force or something, there's the old guard and then there's some of the newer ones. Mm-hmm. So do you think it's still run by mostly the old guard, or are more new people being integrated and coming in?
In politics, there's a lot of new folks coming in, especially on the Republican side. The Democrats, they have a different system. They don't have term limits on chairmanships. So on the Republican side in the House, you can only be a chairman for 6 years, and then you have to leave that post. And so there's an opportunity for new people to come in. On the Democrat side, they don't have that. So when I was first in Congress, a lady named Maxine Waters was chairwoman of Financial Services. She's 82, I believe. She's been there forever, been leading that committee forever. And Democrats, if they take back the House, then she would be chairperson again. So they don't have any term limits. And so some of the younger Democrats, they don't like that. They think that the old guard runs the Democratic Party more so than the old guard runs the Republican side. But in Washington, there are career bureaucrats that have been there forever that do need to go. Just yesterday, I was reading about the head of the U.S. Postal Service, who has bipartisan disdain. People on both sides of the aisle are fed up with him. The mail is poorly delivered around the nation. They're accountable to no one, and so there's a big push to reform the Postal Service. They keep raising rates. The service doesn't get any better. But a lot of the old guard that run things are people in the government, in the bureaucratic, unelected portions of government that need to go.
Yeah.
Do you believe that it is crucial for the American people to use their capability to vote so that we can try to fix this broken system of politics that we have?
Yeah, I mean, voting is important. Obviously, I want people that vote my way to vote more than the others, but I'm not discouraging any voting. I'm happy for everyone to vote. But I do think that as people are more educated and aware of how important voting is, they're more inclined to cast a ballot. And people tend to be more motivated when things aren't so great. If everything's going good, then sometimes people don't have time to go vote. They don't find the time. But when things aren't so great, then people get motivated, which is why I think people are pretty motivated now. The world is in and out of war. We're expecting an Israel retaliation strike against Iran in the next day or two. I think we could wake up or go to bed tomorrow night or even tonight and see an attack on Iran. So the world will be back at war. The economy's not great. Borders wide open. Crime's up in major cities and all over the nation. I think people are fed up with that. And so they're voting in higher numbers than typically.
So that's going to be like the bad times is going to be one of the driving forces. But even through the bad times and the good times, how would you propose to get young Americans, people who are just now able to vote, how would you propose to get them to go to the ballot boxes and cast their votes?
Well, on the Republican side, we have programs. We're working very hard to turn out people. The Democrats do it as well. I think turnout among college students is higher than it's been in the past. But I also think that your proven voters are the ones who get the most attention. And so if you're a senior citizen that hasn't missed an election in 50 years, you're going to get a lot more attention from someone that's trying to win a vote than an 18 or 22-year-old that's either never voted or just maybe will vote. And so a lot of younger folks, I think, get overlooked because historically they don't vote. But we're trying to change that and encourage that.
So going off of the more college students are voting, what is one concept or idea that you would want the younger people of America to know about the politics and government?
I would want younger people to know that they can and should get involved and not just let the old people run the country forever. I think there's kind of a discouragement of younger people getting involved in politics. There aren't many state legislators in their early 30s. I think when I got to Congress, I was 35, and there might have been 10 of us that were under 40 at the time, and maybe about the same number now. It's very difficult to get to Congress. Your average age, I think, is over 60. And so the average age of an American, I don't think is as high as it is in Congress. So we just want to encourage people to be a part of government. You don't necessarily have to run for office, but there's so much you can do. There's different offices you can run from. You don't have to run for Congress. You could run for school board. You could volunteer on a campaign, go to meetings and hold folks accountable. I think there's sometimes a lack of that, and getting younger people involved early typically means they'll be involved throughout their life.
So what is the process of running and getting elected for an office, whether it is like the House of Representatives or president or even?
Well, let's say you want to run for school board or Congress. You've got to live in the area. They want to run for state rep. In Congress, you have to live anywhere within the state. And if you're running for state rep or mayor or whatever, you got to live in the area you seek to represent. And so you've got to find out when the filing period opens up. You go get an application. You typically have to be 18 or over. If you want to run for Congress, you have to be 25 or older, I believe. In some cases, you have to get a certain number of signatures on the application, or you can pay a filing fee. And typically, the higher up the ballot the office is, the more expensive the fee is. But I think if you want to run for school board, there's no fee. You just get an application, you fill it out, and then you're on the ballot. If you want to run for Congress, you get an application. I believe it's $3,000, and you have to go down to Austin and file it with the state party. It's a little more complicated, but the ability to get elected is another thing. You got to get elected too. So first you have to file, then you have to get more votes than whoever it is you're running against, and it's actually pretty simple when you think of it in those terms. People say who's going to win the presidential race, and I say, well, probably whoever gets the most votes. But it's a lot more complicated than that. You've got to actually get those votes, and there's a lot of them. But at the core of the whole idea, it's government by the people. And so people decide to run for whatever seat in government that they care about, and then they go out and get the support of the people that they're going to represent if they win.
So you were saying earlier you've been on the campaign trail with Trump some, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's that process like going from place to place on the campaign, speaking and all that?
It's exhausting if you're at that level. I've only done it a few days, and the days typically start at 7 a.m. with a for example, today I believe he left Palm Beach around 7 a.m. on his plane. I think he's stopping somewhere, and then I think he's ending his night in time for dinner and a fundraiser and a rally in Las Vegas.
Wow.
And that's on an earlier time zone. So when he's going to bed, it'll probably be midnight or 1 a.m. here. Then tomorrow morning, I think he's waking up early. He's flying to Austin. He's doing a podcast on Joe Rogan tomorrow midday. And then I believe he's flying to Georgia. And then I believe his night ends somewhere in the Midwest, or maybe he goes home. And every day is like this. And so he's got to be tired. He says he's not. Yeah. Maybe he's not, but he's definitely got to be tired. But that's typical of a presidential campaign. They're going to be going hard every single day. Kamala Harris is in Houston tomorrow. She's having a rally. He's got a big rally in Madison Square Garden in New York on Sunday night. So he's crisscrossing the nation literally every single day, going all over the place. And then November 5th, it's all over. You're seeing him and Kamala spend a lot of time in places like Pennsylvania, Michigan, not Ohio, but Nevada, Arizona. These are swing states, that they need. And so those states get a lot more TV action. They get a lot more visits from candidates, more rallies, etc.
So we play a game. It's called the Quick Draw Game. So we're going to ask you 5 questions in quick succession.
Okay.
And you're going to just give us a story on them. Just answer them, give us a story.
Okay.
Go into however much detail you want.
All right.
So the first one is your favorite person you've met because of your position.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump? It's an easy one.
What is your favorite experience you've had while being in Washington?
Oh, that's interesting. My favorite experience, probably getting sworn in the first time, holding my son when he was a baby.
Wow.
That's cool.
Do you have any secret talents?
I speak Portuguese. Most people don't
Really?
know that.
Really?
Yeah.
Speak
Eu falo português. It doesn't come in handy a lot in East Texas, but yeah, that's something.
That's really interesting.
Would you mind saying something for us?
Eu falo português. Eu gosto muito de visitar os brasileiros e viajando com os meus amigos. Então, yeah.
Wow. Alrighty. So, what is your ideal concert? Any artist, dead or alive? You got to pick 3.
Oh, so this is why my wife would say I'm boring. I'm not a concert guy, and people think I'm a little crazy because when I'm in the car, I sit in silence and think, or I'm on the phone talking to people. I don't listen to music, and my wife thinks that's nuts. But I say that, but I went to a concert last Sunday. I went to the Justin Timberlake concert in D.C. with my wife. It was her birthday, and so we went. So I mean, I'm not totally boring, but I'm not into crowds and forced fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Did I answer your question? What was the question? I forgot.
It was ideal concert, any artist, dead or alive.
Yeah.
Pick 3.
And then my father, he passed away almost 5 years ago. He and my mom loved going to Eagles concerts, so I'm taking my mom.
I love the Eagles.
In December, we're going to Vegas for the Eagles concert, and I'm excited about that.
That's going to be really cool.
Another concert. That's probably it. Okay. That's good enough.
Do you plan on running for president in the future?
No. Plan on just doing this and not forever. And then I don't know what the next chapter is. But it's all about luck and timing. The reason I'm in Congress is because I worked hard, yes, but I also got a little lucky and my timing was good. If you ask your superintendent over there how she got this job, she'd say I worked hard and the timing was good for her and she probably got a little lucky. And conversely, bad luck and bad timing can be a problem for folks too. I had some bad luck and bad timing once and lost an election, but I learned from it, and that's life. It's really nothing special to politics, but luck and timing are a big deal.
So we've kind of gone over about like what you've done in your impact, but what do you want to do? What is your mission in life, would you say? Like what do you want to affect the world? How do you want to affect the world in a positive?
Well, when I leave Congress, I want to be proud of my time there. I want my constituents to say you did a good job. My big issue right now is the security of the border. I'm in alignment with my constituents who think the border's wide open and we can't let millions of folks come in. We're sympathetic to the plight of others. We want to help others, but we got to take care of ourselves first, and we got to be in a better place before we do that. But at the end of the day, I hope to raise successful, God-fearing children and look back on life and say it was a good life. So statistically, I've probably got less than 40 years to live, and plan to make the best of it.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I think that's all the questions I have. Either y'all have any more questions?
No.
Well, I wish you guys the best too. And long after you're in high school, I hope you think back fondly of your time. I think fondly of my time in Terrell, and it made me who I am. And I suspect wherever you end up someday, especially if you end up in a big city, you'll think fondly of this time, and hope you appreciate it and remember it well.
Yeah, thank you. Well, also then, thank you to our viewers. Just remember this podcast was brought to you by USA Prime East Texas, the LaRue Baptist Church, and Saunders Transportation. That's all. We'll see y'all next time.
Don't forget, like and subscribe.